Looking back at 2002, superhero movies were still trying to figure themselves out. But Sam Raimi's Spider-Man Trilogy was a game changer that brought in over $2.5 billion worldwide and showed everyone what comic book films could really be. With Tobey Maguire bringing such genuine heart to Peter Parker, some incredible visual effects that push boundaries, and its notorious villains, these films laid down the blueprint for how superhero stories would be told on screen. From the unforgettable upside-down kiss to the intense train sequence, this trilogy gave us scenes we'd be talking about for years to come. Today I've put together a compilation of my Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie reviews. I've also added a My Thoughts section at the end of the video, so if you've already watched these videos, feel free to jump ahead and see my personal opinion on the trilogy. There'll be timestamps just below. So other than that, sit back, grab some snacks, and let's jump into it. In 2002, Sony Pictures released Spider-Man, bringing Marvel's most popular superhero to the big screen, in a way that would forever change superhero cinema. The film was a massive success, grossing just over $820 million worldwide, and proving that comic book movies could be both critically acclaimed and commercially successful. Let's explore how this film's themes of power and responsibility, combined with its incredible visual effects and character drama, created the template for modern superhero origin stories.
First I heard about Spider-Man. It sounded interesting to me, but only if it was done the right way, like done in a way that would excite me, you know, in a classy way with a good filmmaker and a good story and a good cast.
Hello and welcome back to the watch list. Today I've decided to look at Spider-Man 2002. After reviewing Phase 1 of the Marvel Universe, I thought I'd mix it up a bit and do some other movies. I know I said in my last video that I didn't want this channel to revolve around Marvel movies, but this trilogy was a staple for me in my childhood. I remember having this film on VHS and just constantly rewatching it. So yeah, I'm incredibly eager to delve into this, so let's go. Sam Raimi, known for his work on the Evil Dead series, brought his unique visual style and storytelling abilities to this adaptation. His approach, balanced with spectacular action sequences, with intimate character moments, creating a superhero film that resonated with both fans and general audiences. The film perfectly tells the origin story of one of comics' most beloved characters, whilst maintaining the core themes that made Spider-Man so popular in print. Act 1 introduces Peter Parker as an ordinary high school student, showing his transformation after the spider bite and the tragic death of Uncle Ben, which teaches him that with great power comes great responsibility.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Act 2 focuses on Peter learning to use his powers while juggling his personal life, as Norman Osborn begins his descent into madness as the Green Goblin. Act 3 concludes in the final confrontation between Spider-Man and Green Goblin, testing Peter's commitment to his values and responsibilities. The production involves some immense practical effects, combined with then groundbreaking CGI to bring Spider-Man's web swinging through New York City to life. The filming took place in New York, with careful attention paid to capturing the city's essence as a character itself. The film's visual effects were revolutionary for their time, creating web-swinging sequences that made audiences believe a man could truly swing through New York's skyscrapers. The combination of practical stunts and CGI really set new standards for superhero action scenes. The Green Goblin's costume and gadgets were largely practical effects, lending weight and realism to the action sequences. I'm sure you've all seen the prototype animatronic Green Goblin helmet that we're going to go with. If they really did go with that, I think I would have had nightmares as a kid. Now, as we're talking about costumes, Spider-Man's suit was next level. Even with all of the iterations we've gotten throughout the years, this one still sits on top. I think the reason is the practicality of it. It felt real. The silver lining across the suit gave it incredible definition, and the shape of the eyes just give off an intense look. I could go on and on about this suit, but I'll move on. One other thing about this version of Spider-Man is that he has organic webbing rather than the usual mechanical cartridge webs. The organic webbing was a unique change made specifically for Raimi's films to streamline the origin story and make Peter's powers more directly connected to the spider bite. Still, it's quite a disgusting ability when you think about it. The fight scenes between Spider-Man and Green Goblin are particularly memorable, especially their final confrontation. I remember that scene being so raw and actually heartbreaking. There's no music, just screams from Peter himself as he's getting battered by Norman. Raimi's direction is visible in how he frames the action, using effective camera movements to follow Spider-Man's acrobatics, while maintaining focus on the fight sequences. This definitely improves throughout the movie, and especially in the sequel. The film features a stellar cast that brings realism to the characters. Tobey Maguire delivers a perfect performance as Peter Parker, Spider-Man, capturing both characters' awkwardness and heroic determination. Kirsten Dunst brings depth to Mary Jane Watson, whilst James Franco portrays Harry Osborn with complexity. Willem Dafoe's dual performance as Norman Osborn and Green Goblin is one of the highlights of the movie, honestly Oscar-worthy, switching between sympathetic and terrifying with incredible skill. The supporting cast includes Cliff Robertson and Rosemary Harris as Uncle Ben and Aunt May, whose performances ground the film emotionally. J.K. Simmons' portrayal of J. Jonah Jameson became instantly iconic and remains the definitive version of the character.
Spider-Man, hero or menace? Exclusive Daily Bugle photos.
Menace.
Let's get into the trivia. I'm sure you've all heard the food tray fact about the movie, so here are some other interesting facts about the production. Leonardo DiCaprio, Heath Ledger, and Jake Gyllenhaal were all considered for the role of Peter Parker before Tobey Maguire was cast. I remember hearing that Jake Gyllenhaal almost took over for the second film as Tobey Maguire suffered a back injury before filming. The famous upside-down kiss scene between Spider-Man and Mary Jane took 38 takes to perfect, and Tobey Maguire was struggling to breathe through the mask in the rain. The line "Go Web Go" was improvised by Tobey Maguire after multiple failed attempts to make the scripted version work. The wrestling scene where Peter fights Bonesaw was a tribute to the original Spider-Man origin story from the comics. And of course, Stan Lee makes his first Marvel movie cameo as a bystander who pulls a young girl away from falling debris, and this would start his tradition in appearing in Marvel films. While some aspects of Spider-Man feel dated by today's standards, this film laid the groundwork for the modern superhero genre. Sam Raimi's direction, combined with Tobey Maguire's earnest portrayal of Peter Parker, created a film that perfectly balanced spectacle with heart. The groundbreaking visual effects may have aged, but the core story about power and responsibility remains as relevant as ever. 20 plus years later, its influence can still be felt in how superhero stories are brought to the big screen, and it remains one of the most important and influential superhero films ever made. In 2004, Sam Raimi delivered what many consider the perfect superhero sequel. Spider-Man 2 took everything that worked in the first film and elevated it, creating a deeply personal story about choice, responsibility, and sacrifice that resonated with both critics and audiences alike.
See, my idea of a formula for these stories is you have to have something that's fantastic, something that's bigger than life. So as I was writing these stories, I kept thinking, boy, I think it would be great if he just decides to give up being Spider-Man.
Welcome back to the watch list. Today we're looking at Spider-Man 2. This film had a massive impact on my childhood, and the film raised the bar for what many superhero movies could achieve. The sequel didn't simply repeat the formula of its predecessor, instead it aimed higher, diving deeper into Peter Parker's personal struggles, while delivering some of the most spectacular action sequences of its era. The film's structure brilliantly weaves together multiple storylines: Peter's crisis of faith as Spider-Man, his complicated relationship with Mary Jane, and the rise of Dr. Octopus. Each plot thread complements the others, creating a rational narrative about identity and choice. Act 1 establishes Peter's growing difficulties in maintaining his double life, as his responsibilities as Spider-Man increasingly conflict with his personal aspirations. Act 2 focuses on Peter's decision to abandon his role as Spider-Man, while Dr. Octavius transforms from mentor to villain following a failed experiment that kills his wife. Act 3 brings everything together in an intense climax aboard a runaway train, leading to Peter's ultimate recommitment to the role of Spider-Man. One massive detail that I didn't cover in my review for the first film is the music. Danny Elfman's score for Spider-Man 2 builds upon the iconic themes of the first film, while introducing new emotional depth. The one moment that sticks out for me when thinking about the score for this movie is the moment where Peter steals the Spidey suit back from the Daily Bugle. The theme hits incredibly hard as he swings away. The action sequences in Spider-Man 2 include an incredible blend of practical effects and CGI that still holds up remarkably well. I remember rewinding the film as a kid and rewatching some of the fighting scenes because they'd be so cinematic and huge. The iconic train sequence stands as a testament to superhero filmmaking, combining breathtaking spectacle with genuine emotional weight. The technical achievement of Dr. Octopus's mechanical arms deserves special recognition. Through a combination of practical and digital effects, each tentacle seems to have its own distinct personality. This attention to detail helps create one of the most convincing and memorable villains in the superhero genre. The film's web-swinging sequences are a massive improvement from the first film, with enhanced cinematography and fluid movement that captures the freedom of Spider-Man's abilities. This improvement demonstrates Raimi's growing expertise in bringing comic book artistry to life. Tobey Maguire gives his best performance as Peter Parker, bringing depth and vulnerability to a superhero questioning his path. His portrayal captures both the physical demands of the role and the emotional turmoil of a guy torn between duty and happiness. Alfred Molina's portrayal of Dr. Octopus is nothing short of phenomenal, creating a sympathetic villain whose tragedy rivals that of Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. Molina transitions from the warm, mentoring presence of Dr. Otto Octavius to the maniacal Dr. Octopus, while maintaining his humanity. And I think that's what makes the character arc so compelling, establishing Doc Ock as one of cinema's most memorable comic book villains. Kirsten Dunst brings new complexity to Mary Jane's character as she's pursuing her dreams whilst grappling with unresolved feelings for Peter. James Franco's Harry Osborn continues his descent into darkness with intensity, as Franco portrays Harry's internal conflict between friendship and vengeance. One scene that speaks to this is where he finds out that Peter is Spider-Man, which then evolves both their characters from friends to complex enemies. The supporting cast provides crucial emotional anchoring for the story, with standout performances throughout. Rosemary Harris brings wisdom and warmth to Aunt May, delivering one of the most powerful moments in her speech about heroism.
I believe there's a hero in all of us.
One of my most beloved scenes. J.K. Simmons once again steals every scene as J. Jonah Jameson, providing perfectly timed comic relief whilst maintaining the character's bitterness. Okay, some of the facts for this film are mostly about the production and are quite fascinating. For example, the hospital scene where Dr. Octopus's tentacles come to life took over a month to film, combining practical effects with CGI. The famous train sequence took over 6 weeks to shoot and required extensive storyboarding to accomplish. The film's iconic "Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head" montage was shot in a single day. The mechanical tentacles used in the film weighed about 100 pounds each and were controlled by puppeteers. The film's budget was approximately $200 million, making it one of the most expensive films ever made of its time of release. Spider-Man 2 is a masterpiece that raised the bar for superhero films. The movie takes everything great about the first film and cranks it up to 11, delivering incredible action sequences alongside deeply emotional character moments. What makes it truly special is how it tackles real-life struggles, figuring out who you are, dealing with overwhelming responsibilities, and making tough sacrifices. These themes work perfectly. Whether you're watching Peter Parker's personal drama or Spider-Man's epic battles, even 20 years later, the film's messages about balancing personal life with duty feel more relevant than ever, especially in today's world where we're all juggling multiple responsibilities and trying to find our place. Spider-Man 2 pushed the boundaries of what was possible in superhero filmmaking, These innovations, combined with Sam Raimi's masterful direction and the cast's powerful performances, created a template that superhero films still aspire to match today. It's not just a great superhero movie, it's a great movie, period. Following the massive success of Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi's third installment attempted to expand the franchise's scope, with multiple villains and darker themes, resulting in a more complex and divisive entry in the trilogy.
A few months after we got the initial story, the idea came about, let's introduce the symbiote, let's introduce the black suit, and of course that means only one thing, let's introduce Venom.
Welcome back to the watch list. So today I'm reviewing Spider-Man 3. It's a bit of a tricky one this, as it represents an ambitious attempt to explore the darker side of Peter Parker's character, while juggling multiple antagonists and storylines. The film was the highest budgeted movie of its time, showcasing some incredible special effects and action sequences. Leave a comment down below, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this movie. And while you're at it, if you could drop a like on the video, that would be very much appreciated. The film weaves together several major plot lines: Peter's struggle with the symbiote suit and his own ego, his complicated relationship with Mary Jane, Harry Osborn's vengeful pursuit as New Goblin, Flint Marko's transformation into Sandman, and Eddie Brock's eventual becoming of Venom. As you can see, it's a lot to get through, even in a 2-hour and 20-minute runtime. Act 1 establishes Peter's growing fame as Spider-Man and introduces both Flint Marko and the mysterious black substance that would become the Venom symbiote. Okay, let me just talk about the whole Venom symbiote. As we know, it crash lands on Earth, which in my opinion is a terrible introduction to this creature, because we've just been introduced to J. Jonah Jameson's son, John Jameson, in the previous film. He's known for going to space and bringing the symbiote down with him, similar to what they did in the Spectacular Spider-Man series. But they didn't do this. Instead, it lands on Earth inexplicably, and we don't know where it came from in this universe or why. Act 2 focuses on Peter's transformation under the symbiote's influence, his deteriorating relationships, and the emergence of multiple adversaries. Act 3 culminates in an extensive battle involving all major characters, leading to Peter's ultimate redemption. Christopher Young took over scoring duties from Danny Elfman, while maintaining the iconic themes established in previous films. The score introduces darker elements to reflect the film's themes, particularly during the sequences involving the symbiote. Spider-Man 3 has some groundbreaking visual effects. For instance, the creation of Sandman is particularly impressive. The team had to develop an entirely new practical simulation technology to accurately represent how billions of sand particles would move and interact. The attention to detail there is remarkable. The aerial combat sequences between Spider-Man and New Goblin utilized improved CGI technology, especially in terms of physics and momentum. The fight choreography feels weighty and impactful, particularly during the brutal alley chase scene where Harry gets clotheslined. The symbiote effects add an entirely new dimension to Spider-Man's movements and abilities, with the black suit seeming to have a life of its own. The way it ripples and flows across Peter's body, morphing his costume and enhancing his abilities. The effects team paid special attention to making the suit appear both organic and threatening. Tobey Maguire tackles his most challenging performance as Peter Parker, portraying both the character's traditional heroic nature and his darker tendencies under the symbiote's influence. Thomas Hayden Church brings some tragic depth to Flint Marko, creating a sympathetic antagonist whose motivations stem from personal distress rather than generic hatred. Topher Grace's Eddie Brock serves as an intrusive rival to Peter Parker. While we're talking about Eddie Brock, I feel like his presence in this film wasn't necessary. They already had a perfect host for the symbiote in Harry Osborn. The symbiote would then have perfect intentions to hate Peter and Spider-Man, just as much as Harry would. It just makes sense. Although James Franco's Harry Osborn completes his character arc from friend to enemy to eventual ally. Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane faces career setbacks and relationship challenges, adding emotional weight to the story. Let's get into the trivia. The Sandman's transformation sequence took months to perfect. and required new CGI technology to achieve the desired effect. Also, the production team used real sand particles scanned into the computer to create realistic sand effects for Sandman. The film's budget exceeded $250 million, making it the most expensive film ever produced at the time. Over 900 visual effects shots were created for the film. Bruce Campbell, who appeared in all 3 Spider-Man films, plays a different character each time, with his role as a French maitre d' in Spider-Man 3, being his longest appearance in the trilogy. There were storyboards for the 4th movie in this franchise where he would make a return as Quentin Beck, otherwise known as Mysterio. It had also been teased in Spider-Man 2.
It helps maintain the illusion.
The infamous emo Peter Parker dance sequence was choreographed by a professional choreographer and took Tobey Maguire several weeks to perfect. In conclusion, Spider-Man 3 is a mixed bag. While it doesn't quite match the perfect balance of Spider-Man 2's character development and action sequences, it's still a visually impressive film that pushed superhero movies forward. The special effects are incredible, particularly with Sandman's fluid transformations and the symbiote sequences that really showed what was possible in superhero films. The film's biggest problem is trying to do too much at once. Harry's redemption story, Sandman's tragic tale, and Eddie Brock becoming Venom, they're all interesting on their own, but together they fight for screen time. Still, underneath all of this, the movie explores some pretty heavy themes about power, revenge, and forgiveness. Looking back now, Spider-Man 3 was ahead of its time in many ways. It helped pave the way for more complex superhero films, showing that these movies could tackle darker themes and morally grey characters. While not everything works, you have to admire how it tried to be more than just another good guy versus bad guy story. So, my thoughts on these films can be very subjective, due to them being a very prominent part of my childhood. But I think a lot of people would agree that these films are incredibly captivating, even if they didn't grow up on them. I got excited thinking about rewatching these ahead of reviewing them for my channel, because these movies made me feel like I was in the action. And it taught me very substantial life lessons. As everyone knows, Spider-Man is one of those heroes who could be anyone behind the mask. That's what made this trilogy so special. It's what makes Spider-Man special. Let's talk about some of my favourite scenes from these films. My number one scene in Spider-Man has to be the rooftop scene with Goblin and Spidey. The writing is amazing and deep. The line, "In spite of everything you've done for them, eventually they'll hate you,"
In spite of everything you've done for them, eventually they will hate you,
is especially significant as it pretty much foreshadows Tom Holland's Spider-Man in No Way Home. My favourite scene in Spider-Man 2 is hands down the train sequence, specifically when his identity is revealed to the passengers, and they show respect for him after discovering how young he is.
He's just a kid, no older than my son.
The way they stand their ground when Doc Ock comes in. This scene showed Peter why he was doing this, why he is Spider-Man. It makes his comeback even more fulfilling.
It's good to have you back, Spider-Man.
All of these scenes gave me goosebumps, even when watching them for the 4th or 5th time. The one that gave me goosebumps in Spider-Man 3 was Aunt May's "Forgive Yourself" speech to Peter. It's something that truly emphasizes the theme of the movie, which is forgiveness. After being the person he was throughout the movie, he needed to hear this from his aunt. Even though it was a short speech, it left an impact on Peter, and on me. Looking back at Sam Raimi's Spider-Man Trilogy, it's clear these films weren't just about spectacular action sequences and groundbreaking effects. They were about heart. Through Peter Parker's struggles with responsibility, self-identity, and forgiveness, the trilogy gave us something deeper than just another superhero story. While each film has its strengths and weaknesses, together they form a complete narrative arc that explores what it truly means to be a hero.